You want some bad news, Michael?
No.
What are you asking me?
You're the guru of the gray matter. I figured if anybody had it, you'd have the answer.
I can't give you any direction.
I think I'm going to have to change this channel. I'm sorry.
You're completely wrong.
I refuse to be wrong on 2 calls in a row.
Tell me I'm spot on or tell me I'm crazy as all get out.
I have no idea.
I have a 6-month-old, so we'll be raising him according to Dr. Ray.
Talk about being a winner.
So, you want my question?
You ain't making any sense.
You're absolutely right. I just needed confirmation.
So what are you going to do about it, Dawn?
I'm calling you.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Very nice to have you with me here on The Doctor Is In, along with my compatriots. Andrew Kruchek, producer man there in Ann Arbor, Eric Dumont. Our show's Call Screamer. Somebody asked me, email, why do you call him Call Screamer? Well, if you hear him when he picks up the phone, he says, hello! No, he doesn't. He always just says, what's your question? Or now he says, what's your comment, too, because we take a lot of comments, and I like those. The number to get onto the program, 877-573-7825. I said that pretty fast. That's because I just want to talk the whole hour. I didn't want to be interrupted by any calls. That's not true at all. Your calls make the show. And very much like your calls. Do my very best to get to them as quickly as I can, although I break radio rules. I remember years and years ago when I first started in Catholic radio. This was with a network that is no longer around, but this was one of Catholic network ventures. This is before EWTN really got the network up and rolling. And they had some big time consultant come in. He supposedly had all kinds of credentials on these secular hosts that he had fostered and founded and sustained and maintained and brought to fame, whatever. And he listened to me. And he said something to the effect that, oh, yeah, you got to go through calls quicker. No more than 3 minutes. No more than 3 minutes per call. And I thought to myself, I am here to do my best to help folks. And if a call goes longer than that, then that's the way it is. Now, obviously, you're not going to do a 22-minute call. Well, I know Andrew's probably thinking, yeah, well, sometimes you try to. But at the same time, there are things that are just necessary to help people out, and you can't follow the radio formula. Dispatch them. Get rid of them quick. Not going to do that. But that does make it tough sometimes to get to all the calls. But I do my very best. It's a balancing act. So, if you'd like to be one of those calls, the number is 877-573-7825. Not an easy number to remember. So, 877-57-EQUAL. The letters correspond to the numbers on the phone dial. 877-57-EQUAL. 3 reasons. Situation, circumstance in your life you have a question about, you're puzzled about, struggling with, or perhaps not. Perhaps you're saying, no, I think I'm handling this pretty well, and I just wanted to bounce it off of that doctor, that guy, that Roy Ganudi, or whatever that dude's name is that has that show. If you have a comment, we had some comments yesterday, helpful folks. Sometimes people listen to the opening monologue and they think, well, that's our topic. No, it isn't. The opening monologue is not the topic. The opening monologue is just the opening monologue. The topics are anything you bring to the program. And then thirdly, we had one yesterday, a topic, a question, a comment that is generic. It isn't something specific to somebody's life. It is something along the lines of, what about this cultural phenomenon as it affects our walk with Christ? Or what about this faith question as it touches upon psychology? Anything general like that. Or sometimes people call in because they don't understand a diagnosis, or they have a question about a particular condition or something to look for. So those calls are very welcome too. If you disagree with me, you are put straight to the front of the line. If I cannot offer an explanation for why I said what I said or didn't say what I didn't say, then I haven't really thought it through enough. But you will be put straight to the front of the line. If you compliment me, I've told Eric, make sure that we put the people with more compliments first. If you only have one compliment, that's kind of, you may get on, you may not. But if you got 5 or 6, then we can probably let you jump the turnstiles. 877-57-EQUAL, that is the number. Now, at the risk of dinging up my chances for the Humility Award, as I'm making a comeback. I talked to my wife today, and I asked her if I should do this, and she said yes. And I do what she says, and I do not get hurt. Very recently, republished a book called Drama-Free Discipline. Some years ago, a PhD psychologist walked into my office. Nice lady, very nice lady, young mom. And her 5-year-old was eating her for lunch. Oh, she knew all the proper psychological techniques, the enlightened ways to deal with this recalcitrant, obstreperous 5-year-old. And they were just blowing up. We talked, gave her some ideas. She said, sure would be nice if you could observe me at the house. Now, she wasn't coming on. She was married. I was all taken care of safely. Observe me at the house as I interact with him when he refuses time out or when he throws a fit, he melts down. On the spot instruction. I said, I think I can do that. So I did. I remember just kind of sitting at her table, and the little guy was up and awake, and there was a fair amount of interaction between him and Mom, and truth be told, he was pushing on her pretty hard. It didn't take long for something to happen that frustrated her or that she felt flummoxed about. I watched the scenario, saw the dialogue between her and her son, saw the interaction, the conduct between her and her son, and I offered suggestions on the spot. That gave me an idea that came to fruition some years later, resulting in this book, Drama-Free Discipline. It is 18 scenarios, the most common discipline scenarios that parents deal with from roughly ages 3 of a child to age 18. Things like disrespect, sibling quibbling, bedtime bad times, refusing discipline, parental disagreements, grandparent undercutting, children wanting more freedom socially than they're allowed to have, the stuff of normal parenthood, the stuff of normal discipline, the stuff of incredibly frustrating discipline. Each one has a common scenario. It's a script. The kids talk, the parents talk, the kids act, the parents act. If you've seen the TV show Living Right with Dr. Ray, and I know some of you have because we have a viewing audience close to 55 people. So it's very possible that there may be some overlap between my 162 here on the radio and 55 on TV. You've seen over the years we've done these scenarios. We've had actors. We've actually hired actors, and then I would, through the magic of television, step into the screen and offer the thoughts and observations on how to coach them out of trouble. That's what this book is. Drama-Free Discipline is a book that says, okay, here's the scenario, here's the situation, and then I step into the pages and I offer my own comments, my own observations, hopefully some helpful suggestions on how to get you out of discipline trouble or how to make the situation go smoother. That's what it is, Drama-Free Discipline. Just released. If you're interested in it, best place to go is EWTNRC.com. That is their catalog for sales. You could also get them on my website if you wish, but pushing you towards EWTNRC. And then also Sophia Press publishes the book, Drama-Free Discipline. As far as I know, and I'm familiar with an awful lot of parenting books out there, there aren't any out there that actually take, here's the script, here's the common interchange among all the parties involved, and then here's the shrink stepping into the scene, doing his own stunt voices and his own stunt discipline. No body doubles in my scenarios. 877-573-7825. 877-57-EQUAL. That is the number to call to get onto the program. I would be absolutely delighted to talk to you. I welcome your calls.
Hi, everyone. It's Father John Ricardo. Scripture tells us without a vision, the people perish. We're seeing a lot of that right now in the church. But God has a vision and wants to share it with us. And so I want to invite you to a special event called the Jesus Conference, Mobilizing the Church for the World He Loves. It's going to take place at the St. John's Resort in Plymouth, Michigan. This coming October 2nd to 4th. Tickets become available January 13th. You can get more information and register at thejesusconference.org.
The Heart of the Interior Life with Elizabeth Jingle.
St. Ignatius of Loyola describes the challenging characteristics of spiritual desolation in the fourth rule of his 14 rules for the discernment of spirits. St. Ignatius states that finding oneself totally slothful, tepid, sad, falls within the experience of spiritual desolation. Father Timothy Gallagher writes, "The adverb totally is powerful here. Ignatius applies it to three further forms of spiritual desolation. Persons in such desolation may experience themselves as entirely slothful, tepid, and sad. When a person finds themselves totally slothful, they lack spiritual vitality. When a person is tepid, they lack spiritual zeal. And when they experience a sadness connected to their life of faith, they lack interior joy." Have you asked for the grace to identify and reject spiritual desolation in your life today?
For more information, visit AveMariaRadio.net.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Do you feel as though life is flying past you? Are you desperate for a way to find moments of peace and quiet? Lord, Teach Me to Pray, the free Ignatian prayer series, will open your heart to His voice, to the peace you are seeking and the only love that fulfills the human heart, Jesus. God is calling you to true joy, knowing Jesus personally. Lord, Teach Me to Pray is free. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com, click on the red box, order the Lord, Teach Me to Pray series now. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com.
Very pleased to have you with me. Catholic Radio's Renaissance Man. Very nice. Somebody corrected me in an email and said, it's Renaissance. I said, yes, I know that. But I won it so many times on Catholic media that there's a movement to change the name to Renaissance. Look it up. Now, we just found out that Prescott, Oregon has a population of 82 people, most recent census, which means that our caller that I'm going to here in a second is approximately 1.5% of the town's population. You realize if, like, I was 1.5% of a call from Chicago, it'd be like 100,000. Hello, sir. Thanks for calling. Or I don't know if it's a sir or a female. It doesn't say here. Caller.
Prescott man. I'm a male.
Yes, sir. Thanks for calling.
Sure. Okay. My wife and I adopted a little boy off the street, and he was drug affected. He's now about 6-year-old. And at nighttime, when I go to pray with him, he starts fidgeting like crazy when I start praying. And I'm not sure why. So I just had a question about that.
You think it's anything to do with praying, or do you think it's just because he just doesn't want to sit still while you kind of talk and he just doesn't want to listen?
No, he's laying there kind of still, but the moment I start to pray with him, he starts squirming and making noise. So I don't know what's going on. He's fine before I start praying. The moment I say Father, Son, and Holy Spirit and start praying, he starts fidgeting like crazy. I'm thinking, is he demon possessed or what?
See, I knew that's what you were going to ask. I was thinking, you're not really thinking that something within this little guy, given his terrible history, his womb history, is somehow so awry that he's being demonically oppressed. Do you think that? What percentage of your guess would that be?
No, it's just with me and my mom and my wife. When we pray with him, the moment we start praying, he starts fidgeting and just, I don't know, he just seems really uncomfortable the moment I start praying. So.
Well, let's interpret this most simply. That's all. The simplest interpretations are generally the most accurate. I would suspect that your sign of the cross is a sign to him that he's going to have to sit there and listen, and that's boring.
Well, it's dark in the room, so we don't do the sign. We just start praying, and he just starts squirming the moment I start praying. So it's just really happen.
If it were me, as long as he's not squirming out of bed, as long as he's not doing anything completely disruptive, I'd let him squirm and I would pray anyway. I might hold his hand, say, let's hold hands while we pray. I would do that. Might hug him while we pray. Go ahead.
I've tried that. It doesn't work. But my one thought was maybe told him I'm going to pray quietly by his bed and see if that doesn't, I wonder if that would help.
Well, it's a good experiment because you'll find out whether, in fact, there's something about the prayer, and I don't mean from a spiritual perspective. I mean just from the idea that he's got to sit there and he's learned that this is boring, and I don't want to hear this. Or if you just kind of sit there and hold his hand and you just pray quietly to yourself and he doesn't start squirming, you'll find out. But either way, I think it's just a reaction to him having to sit and listen to this, and it doesn't surprise me, sir, because it's not unusual.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, let me say this, too. He goes to a Catholic school, and on Fridays when they have children's mass, he gets squirming during that time, too. So he gets, he like lays down or he's fidgeting and that kind of thing during the mass too. So that's what I was just curious about that.
I don't think it's anything spiritually related. I think that, and it's very common among kids who are adopted and who have had very, very assaultive womb histories. I mean, the research is now overwhelming that when you have been in a womb as a little baby and you have been bathed in chemicals that shouldn't be there, particularly alcohol, it's not unusual as maturity moves on, as development happens, that there's quirks. There is impulsivity, there is distractibility, there is just an awful lot of agitation, if you will, in behavior. Not unusual. And it's more marked when they have to be quiet and sustain attention. So at Mass and in prayers, your little guy probably senses that, oh boy, I'm going to have to sit here, I'm going to have to sustain attention. Because I would guess that if you would put him in front of a screen, or you would put him in front of something that he really, really, really likes doing, he doesn't squirm. He probably focuses better on it. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. It's because he gets immediate feedback, which sustains his attention, but it's not at all unusual. Several of our children were drug and alcohol exposed in the womb, and they too struggled focusing their attention, not squirming, not being all over the place. My one daughter, who was very, very heavily exposed in the womb, I mean, when we tried to homeschool her, she was just nothing but a spinning top. Okay? So It's not unusual. I certainly wouldn't imbue it with any kind of spiritual oppression. I would simply say There's commonalities between any time he has to sit still and listen and his reaction.
Okay.
So, I mean, one other thing, too, Prescott. You said, I've tried holding his hand or I hold him and it doesn't work. Well, don't worry about it not working.
Okay.
Just have the contact. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Can I ask just a quick follow-up question?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's been getting in a little bit of trouble in school now and then, not too bad, but the school district has gotten involved, and I'm just not sure, and they're going to have a psychologist come in and watch him. Is that a good thing or a bad thing to get the school district?
Well, there's probably a pretty good chance the little guy's going to get diagnosed with something. They'll throw some letters at him, which really in a lot of ways would be irrelevant because he is who he is. He does what he does. So even if we put
he already has an appointment to go to a psychological testing for a child like that to diagnose what his problem is.
Well, okay, be careful. You're not going to diagnose what his problem is. They're going to diagnose his developmental level. All right.
Right.
They're not going to say, well, okay, personality-wise, here's his problem, and here's what you do to fix it. No. It's much more than that. Well, he's your little guy. He's going to...
That's my fear.
Well,
that's my fear.
Don't fear it. You don't have to fear it, Prescott. It's just going to happen. What's probably going to happen is they're going to diagnose him ADHD. They'll suggest medication. You'll have to decide if you can manage his behavior without medication. But what will also happen is the school will probably put pressure on you to say, if you don't put him on medication, then we're not sure we can have him here. So that's what's going to face you. The best thing to do is to talk to the school teacher and say, is there some way that I can get a report every day regarding his conduct so that I can deal with this at home?
No, we do get a report. We get little smiley face of
right. Okay.
Frowny face.
Good. Then you're gonna have to do something about it. You can't just go. I tell you, we're getting into a therapy session here, and we can't do that. So I've got a book called Discipline That Lasts a Lifetime, and it deals with this stuff.
Okay.
And it's It's on my website. It's the most common popular discipline book I have by far, still selling in the tens of thousands. It would answer a lot of this stuff. I also have a book on adoption, too, that if you want to check into that. Prescott, thank you, my friend, for the call. Sorry to have to cut you off, but the time is the dictator. This is Dr. Ray, 877-573-7825. We have other calls up there. I'm talking too fast. We have other calls up there. But I only have approximately 1 minute to a hard break. So I ask the patience of the folks with the calls. Oh, boy. Some complexes ones. The number is 877-573-7825. Just to piggyback a little bit on what Prescott was saying, the child-raising experience of a child who has had a rough womb environment and very possibly some genetics that would predispose him to be harder to raise is common. I would say that complicates parenting at least 50% of the time. Some kids, believe it or not, because of their exposure in the womb, still develop rather normally. His testing that's going to go on is going to be most reliable on his intellectual level and his developmental level. When you start getting into the personality of a 5-year-old, first of all, you're going to just deal with very generic type descriptions. And second of all, it's not going to really be all that helpful because you still got to do what you got to do to deal with the behavior that he presents you with. All right. There's the break. Hitting on 6 of 8 cerebral cylinders. Missing a couple here and there. You can hear the hiccup. This is The Doctor Is In. It's a co-production of the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network and Ave Maria Radio Communications. Let's go to an anonymous caller. She's a female, but she says she's a pa. That's Pennsylvania. Okay. Having a little trouble with her ex. Hi, caller. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Ray.
Thanks for the call. You're up. Your turn. That's all I had to say. That's all I had to say. I'm not going to say any other thing.
Okay. I really need help with an ongoing, double decades-long situation. My ex completely undermines me with every parenting thing that I've ever tried to put in place for my two girls, from seatbelts to car seats to junk food to any kind of discipline, chores. And along with that, he's very abusive in every kind of way. Lots and lots of money. Every time I try to discipline, don't listen to her, she's unstable, this and that. And, then they're walking around with, literally $5,000 bracelets and $1,000 shoes. And I don't know. My children hate me because I've never been able to mother in a space where I've been able to not be upset, crying, and miserable. And they think that...
How long ago did you divorce?
15 years ago.
And the kids are how old now, Mom?
They're older. They're 15 and 23, but the undermining has just always been there. Like when they were little, he would give my older one a hug and say, who's the best? And demand that they say you, and one time she tried to give me a hug.
Have your children written you off? They said, I want to go see Mom.
Yes. I've always had full custody. Again, he's very powerful, lots of money, and they just, my 15-year-old is new to high school, so she wants all of this freedom, and you have to earn it, number one, and I need to know these new parents, how, their lifestyle is. I need to know where she's going, and
okay, so the girl, help me out here. The 23-year-old is out of the house?
She just moved back in from college, but we, with discipline with her too, she doesn't want to hear anything. So he instigated a fight in between us, and she left. Is living with him. The younger one is living with him now.
She's out of the house. I know you're trying to get a lot in right now, but I'm just trying to distill it down to the crux here. She's out of the house, so really, the thing you have to deal with now is how much she buys into everything he said. All right, that's the first thing. The 15-year-old still lives with you, and he gets visitation. Is that it?
Well, he forced me into signing a court order where he's gotten her every single weekend for the last 6 years, and he breaks that. He takes her every single day. I don't get to spend any time with her at all, and so to me, he's just a bad influence. And
are you asking how to change him or how to change her?
How to change my children, if that's even possible. I don't want them to change. I just want them to see that what I have been doing is for love and safety for them.
That may not come for another 10 years.
Yeah.
They're going to have to look back on it and say, I didn't like what my mom was doing. I was glittered up by Disney Dad. But now I see that Mom was the one with the more reliable upbringing than Dad, who just kind of tried to poison me against Mom. And I'm finding out little by little that everything he said isn't all true. And the fact that Mom really was trying to be a good mom, and I realize now he was doing everything he could do to sabotage her. Now, that may not come about until they're 25, 28, 30. Seen that happen a lot. So I think that's kind of what you're playing for. At this point, how much resistance do you get from the 15-year-old when you attempt to have some kind of rules?
Total, almost. And then, the older one will interject, and it's just like a circus. And it's simple things.
Okay, so it's ugly. It's very, very ugly. You have no control.
Yep.
They hate
and
you.
he'll be on the phone laughing.
Okay,
like
they hate
laughing
you.
And encouraging.
You got a decision here to make, Mom. I'm not telling you to do this, but you got a decision to make. You may say, this is so untenable, you need to live with your father. I'm not advising you to do that, but I'm just simply saying I think you're going to come to that. Because if you have no control over this kid, if it's nothing but chronic hostility, and he's doing everything he can to make you look like the Wicked Witch.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So at that point, you're stuck. You're just stuck. I hate to say that, but right now this is not a 5-year-old. This is a 15-year-old. The 23-year-old's already left. The 23-year-old said, "Look, that's why I'm thinking the 15-year-old's going to do the same thing." And I'm sure she's probably already told you, "I want to go live with Dad. I don't want to live here. I want to go live with Dad." She's probably said that a million times. Of course.
Yeah.
So given that,
easy street there.
It is. Unfortunately, you have to hope. Now you're put into a position to have to hope that at some point they're going to realize that Mom was motivated by a reliable, steady love. Didn't try to buy him off. Didn't try to poison him against Dad. She was the more mature parent. At some point you have to hope that. But at this point, it's so ugly and it's so conflicted that the longer it goes on, it sounds like the worse it's going to get. If you're saying to me, well, how do I convince my 15-year-old that I'm a good mom? You don't. I know that sounds harsh. You don't. Because she's totally convinced you're not, and she's gauging it on the fact that you don't let her do whatever she wants. This is one of the absolute most treacherous outcomes of divorce. There's no question about that. This is a routine dynamic that when you have a spouse like this who says, I'm the parent you can count. I'm the one. Not the witch, not the warlock. When that happens, it is so hard to fight against that. If she were 10 or 11, you'd have a chance. I think she's 15, and now at this point, if she hasn't already said, I'm leaving, I'm going to live with Dad, and you can't do anything about it, I'd be surprised.
Yes.
And I'm sure she has a smartphone, and if you try to take that smartphone, she'd go crazy on you. She'd probably go crazy.
Yes.
Of course.
Doesn't want any limitations, doesn't want to help with any chores.
See, at this point, I think, and again, I can't say because you're not a client, but from what you're saying, it sounds like the longer it goes on, the worse it gets. And I think you're going to be faced with a decision to say, I'm going to respect your wishes. I'm not going to let our relationship deteriorate any further. You can live with your dad, and I hope that you still want to come around and see me, but at this point, this is what I'm looking at. I was reading a adage the other day. I thought it made a lot of sense. It said, money is the root of all wealth. Saw that. Yeah, that's something I never thought of. Money is the root of all wealth. Before I go to your calls, I want a little postscript to the previous call. I know there are those of you thinking, there has to be an answer to a situation like that. There has to be. Something to solve it. The answer is that Mom is going to have to find her own peace given what has been done the last 15 years. The reality is, and this is so true of much of life, we can't change situations. It's gotten to the point. A 23-year-old already says, "Mom, I'm gonna go there because that's just so much nicer. There's no rules. There's no limits." Well, the sad thing is that kids who are raised like this have a much higher chance of screwing up their lives. They become miserable adults. But that won't happen until it happens. And I don't know if they'll connect the dots and say, geez, maybe my mom had the right ideas about some things. Maybe my dad was kind of misguided in his permissive largesse. They wouldn't use the word largesse. I did. Situation gets to a point where it's untenable. I mean, clearly mom has no discipline. She can't discipline. Now, we didn't have time to talk about all the things that she could possibly do to discipline, but the undercurrent was no matter what she would try, the daughter would refuse. And as long as the daughter has an out, which is to go to dad's, the situation has finally become unfixable. And then you look at what options are left. And at this point, you don't want the relationship to deteriorate any further, because it's already very deteriorated, not necessarily through mom's fault, but because of the situation she was in. And again, in a future look-back call, I'm going to talk about this because I don't know the circumstances of the divorce. I don't know what the marriage was like. I don't have any idea about that. But oftentimes, divorces happen because the spouses are discontent. I don't like who you are. I don't like you anymore. You're unpleasant, so therefore I want a divorce. Well, they don't realize that they're buying into something that can happen just like our previous caller said. They can lose their kids. If the other spouse plays unfair and says, I'm going to win you over however I have to win you over, and I'm going to poison your mind against your mother or your father, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't. If they won't cooperate, you can't. So I feel so very badly for our caller, but the hope is this. The hope is, and I've seen it happen, that the girls come to realize, yeah, for all of Dad's Disney approach to parenting, Mom had the better ideas. Let's go to Marlene from Buffalo, New York. Hi, Marlene. Yo, Marlene.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for the call.
Hi. You're welcome. So, my son is 40 years old. He is what I call a functioning alcoholic. He knows that. He goes to work every day, though. Now we're aware of, like, weekend drug use, cocaine, and his girlfriend is expecting. So this drug use is kind of new to me. He's hidden it very well. And me and my husband and my daughter don't know how to proceed because the girlfriend is worried. So she'll call my daughter and ask for advice.
What's your daughter tell her?
Well, she asks me what she should do. Should we do an intervention? Should somebody say something out loud?
Well, I think they're probably wise to confront him, but he's not foolish. He knows they know. So what's going to happen is when you confront him, you say, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You're heading down an even worse path, and now you've got a child on the way. So what are you doing here? What's your plan? Do you think you're doing anything that's a problem by compounding alcohol with drugs?" Now, the answer that he gives you to that is going to tell you plan B, which is the girlfriend is going to have to make a decision. If he says, this is what I'm doing, leave me alone, I'm not that bad, I still go to work, I can function, I don't want to hear it. If he does that, then he's automatically put her in a position where she has to decide, okay, am I going to live with this or not? That's where she is.
I agree. She's holding the cards.
Well, she's not holding the cards. No, he's holding the cards.
He's holding the cards.
He's holding the cards. He basically said, I'm going to either do what I want or leave me alone, or I will attempt to pull out of this. However, whether it's a quote-unquote intervention or Narcotics Anonymous, or she goes to her own self-help support group, whatever it might be. But what happens is, here's what I would suggest to your daughter to tell her. Say, you need to confront him. You need to hear whether he's open to doing anything about it or he's defensive. And that will then lead you to your second decision, which will be, what am I going to do about this now? Am I going to live with it or am I not? And you know, oftentimes life doesn't have good decisions. It just has a less bad one.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of thinking all those things you were saying, because we've been rolling this around for weeks, and nobody's doing anything. You know.
Well,
like
here's the thing about doing something, Marlene. You can do it. God bless you for doing it, but you have to be prepared that what you do, he may not want to hear.
Oh, I know, because I've just said something a couple weeks ago about the drinking and the baby due in 7 months. I said, you should get that under control now. I don't want to hear it. That was his answer.
There you go. I know. There you go.
I've been hearing that. I don't want to hear it for.
Well, then you better stop saying. You
years.
Better stop saying it.
Okay.
You keep thinking, if I keep saying it, one of these times he's going to want to hear it. How many times does he have to say, I don't want to hear it, before you stop saying it?
And he's got a friend that he's doing this with who has a newborn baby at home.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
That's terrible.
Yes, my dear. Unfortunately, in this business as a psychologist, I have an acute awareness of my limits. Mm-hmm. You can't change somebody if they don't want to be changed.
Yeah.
All right. God bless you. Thanks for the call.
Thank you so much.
Yep. It's Dr. Ray.
St. Therese of Lisieux, the cloistered Carmelite nun, and St. Joan of Arc, the 17-year-old girl who led the French army and was burned at the stake. Two paths to holiness that awaken the contemplative heart and the warrior spirit. The Therese and Joan Women's Retreat is the first weekend of Lent, February 20th to the 22nd at the St. Francis Retreat Center in DeWitt, featuring Sean Breeden and Elizabeth Jingle. Click the banner at AveMariaRadio.net to register by Friday, January 30th.
2026 promises to be a great year for travel, to explore the Bible and our Catholic heritage. Steve and Janet Ray here. We're scheduling our favorite pilgrimage sites just for you to enrich your faith. Ireland, Lourdes and Fatima, our St. Paul Mediterranean cruise. As always, we have the best Catholic guides, hotels, and restaurants in our famous time-tested Footprints of God pilgrimages.
Find the Ave Maria Radio travel tab at AveMariaRadio.net.
This week on Christ is the Answer, Father John wants to help us keep the faith. It's no secret that the body of Christ is under attack on all sides. There's the hostile news media, closed-minded academia, non-Christian religions, and even mass-market retailers, to name a few. What do we do when our faith is under attack? Join us this week as Father John talks about the strength of faith, as well as how to find joy in the midst of persecution. Tune in for Christ is the Answer, Monday through Fridays at 11 a.m. on Ave Maria Radio.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866 Ave Maria or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
I want to thank the people so patiently waiting on the lines, because when you do this, you don't know for sure whether you're going to get on or not, but you wait, and your time is valuable. So if we don't get to you this show, you call back anytime. Now, we got a number of folks who want to comment on previous calls. Lori from Missouri had a situation very similar to our previous caller, who's 23-year-old and 15-year-old after all these years has been permissively raised by their father in another house, and now they pretty much want no part of mom. Hi, Lori. You had the same situation?
Hi there, Dr. Ray. How are you?
I'm good, dear. Thanks.
It's a privilege to talk to you.
Well, it's a privilege to listen to you.
if we have time after, I'd love to ask you a quick question about softball, your softball career. But first, unfortunately, I'm divorced. He had 2 addictions, alcohol and pornography. He moved halfway across the country, and my oldest daughter was a wreck. All she wanted was her dad. She was like horrible to me when she was in middle school, which is similar to the previous caller who has a 15-year-old who's treating her horribly. And I agree with your advice. You were right, Dr. Ray.
Well, I don't know if it was advice because I'm hesitant to tell someone what to do because I don't know all the variables. I was more or less saying this could be an option you'll have to face.
I'm on the phone, hon. Sorry.
I know you're on the phone. You're talking to me. Oh, you're not even talking to me, Lori.
I'm at work.
Oh.
Okay,
you're getting paid for talking to me. Huh. Okay.
I work for my son, and my son's like, Mom? So anyway.
Mom, come on. Time is money. Time is money, Mom. Who are you talking to?
Exactly. Oldest daughter was a train wreck and making us all miserable. I had full custody of our 3 children. All she wanted was her dad. And I was like, okay. And I did what I had that horrible decision to make. I sent her to live with her dad. She did the 4 years of high school across the country with her dad. But I kept in contact with her, regular contact, prayed for her, prayed for our relationship. And I was horrified because you heard his addictions, alcohol and pornography. I didn't know what the heck she would be exposed to. But long story short, she's 38 now, and we have a wonderful relationship. I actually pressed into the Blessed Virgin for motherly care and advice. And
she came to realize, Lori, that you were the more responsible, mature parent.
Yes, and I never spoke poorly about him. They figured it out.
Well, your call is confirmation to our previous caller because to hear her to have her hear you say that, even though you said she's 38, it only took all these years, but nevertheless,
no, it didn't take all those years.
Okay, all right.
It didn't take all those years, but I continue. I did send her. We had peace in our home with the other 2 children who were just. I had 3 under age 3, so they were, coming up right behind her. I had peace in our home and continued to love her and pray for her. So I didn't just send her off. I continued to love her and pray for her. And
there you go.
Yeah, we have a great relationship.
Nice to hear. It's nice to hear happy ending stories. It truly is. Now, you got about a minute left to ask this softball question, which has been the passion of my life for decades.
I know. And my husband's as well. Fast pitch or slow pitch?
Slow.
Okay, he played men's fast pitch.
That's manly. That's manly.
Yeah, he was a pitcher. Yeah, he's in the St. Louis Hall of Fame now. And St. Louis Softball Hall of Fame. And this spring he'll begin his 58th season of
senior league.
Playing.
Is he in the senior league?
Yeah, he plays a Masters. Well, he plays with younger guys on Monday nights locally.
Fast pitch,
and then fast pitch. Yeah,
I didn't even know there were many leagues left of fast pitch. Only the girls.
It's not. It's shrunk
of course.
Horribly.
And so has slow pitch. Slow pitch has dramatically plummeted. When I played in my prime, there's about 275 teams in the city of Canton. Now I think it's down to about 35, something like that.
Yes.
Because all the other things have taken place, and team sports and bowling, anything like sports. That is declined. Yeah, dramatically.
I think children's sports. My brother quit playing men's softball himself to because his children were of playing age themselves. That's what.
Well, Lori, I retired about a year ago, and you know why I decided it was time? 2 factors. One, it took 2 singles to score me from third. Okay. Anybody knows ball can laugh at that one. And then the other was, if I was heading into second base and I tried to slide, but I tripped, of course, I would push my life alert button, and my teammates would have to come and pick me up.
Yeah, that's why he likes to hang out in the dugout with the younger guys and maybe get a couple innings in. But he does play with the older guys and Masters.
He's the old guy on the mound. He's the old guy on the mound, like I was. He's the old guy on the mound. Well, Lori, I got to run. Thanks, honey. I'm going to get stopped here by the music. Thanks for the call. And for those of you I didn't get to, please call back. I definitely would want to talk to you, and I thank you so much for your kind patience. This is Dr. Ray. The program is over. 7 seconds left. Walk with God. It's the walk that will never end.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.